And because they've been giving people so much Gucci, people actually have been like buying less. It's weird that some companies, we actually learned this in a class I'm taking. It's called a luxury good. I think so. And essentially, the less you produce of it, the more valuable it is because its value is based on the status that the item has in other people's minds, and often the value that's people think it is worth is based off how scarce it is. So these companies will automatically try to reduce the amount of items of that type that is out there for to be sold. I'm always surprised when companies don't like understand that. And it's interesting that Jaguar is another one of those where they just never understood that concept.
Manufacturer. It was a producer of very distinctive, good-looking, high-performance sports cars and saloon cars.
No wonder Jaguar is an endangered species on Ford's dwindling list of luxury brands.
Jaguar was a very fashionable brand, and it's hard to keep that up over decades and decades, especially when you go the route of trying to chase more volume. And that's what every car company is tasked with, because at the end of the day, it's great to be cool, but if you're not selling very many cars, your business isn't good, when that's really what you're in business for.
They never made any money doing it, and it didn't help the brand at all. It weakened the brand significantly.
Yeah.
Until we get to a point.
I still always say that it's always interesting how many people buy things based off of like the brand name. But like not the brand name, but the brand image. Like to me, when I go on Amazon, I look at what has the highest reviews. I don't look by like what brand am I shopping by. I always find it interesting that people care a lot about the brands of things that they buy.
Point where we are the last few years.
This higher volume strategy continued under Jaguar's current owner, Tata Motors, a subsidiary of the vast Indian conglomerate which purchased Jaguar along with Land Rover in 2008. Since that acquisition, the two brands...
Also, another thing to notice is that I think that when companies change hands so often, I feel like that leads to worse leadership. Because ideally, if you think like you're like a pirate ship, right, and you have a captain, it's like once you have a good, solid captain, you should stay with that captain for as long as possible. Or that captain should stay with that boat as long as possible. Because they know how to make it run effectively. And when you have stuff like this, where new people are constantly getting involved at such a high level, I feel like that really does demolish like the vision and the type of way they're trying to steer the company. When you have so many new people trying to bring in so many ideas that they kind of lose like vision about what initially made it successful.
Fortunes have diverged.
If I look at its more recent history, it's pursued a strategy of volume over value. It's tried to play in that volume premium space, which is really dominant.
I also feel like when people say volume premium space, I feel like those are two things that don't make sense. Like, what's something that's very premium that's widely available? Like, I feel like that is not something that like should be trying to achieve, because if something's premium, then people look at it and it's like it's scarce. If something's high volume, it's not scarce, and most like something's high volume, it's like cheaper than what a premium product would be, because a premium product people wouldn't buy that much of.
Dominated by manufacturing and purchasing economics, and we've had vehicles that have been really competent, critically acclaimed, but perhaps not unique enough to really compete in that very, very tough segment.
Starting in 2016, the company had tried to turn to SUVs to keep up with larger market shifts. At first, it worked. There was a mid-size F-Pace and a smaller E-Pace.
So those two SUVs, they were smart-looking vehicles, particularly the F-Pace, a very handsome car.
Like if I was looking to buy a car, right, I would look at best SUV 2024 reviews. And then whatever they put, you never look at the sponsored reviews. You always look at the first one. And then whatever they say right here that's pretty much what I go with. Like I just don't really care about brands. I just don't really.
Sold very well.
But the brand suffered during the Dieselgate scandal that engulfed so many other automakers.
Jaguar tried to have basically Jaguar versions of Land Rover vehicles, share the costs across the two brands, all the things you would want to try to do in that circumstance. But I think at the end of the day, if you're an SUV shopper and you're thinking, well, I could get a Jaguar, I could get a Land Rover, well, which one do you want to more be seen in?
It also couldn't achieve the success in SUVs that other sporty luxury car makers such as BMW, Audi, and Porsche had managed.
Porsche successfully transferred the brand into an SUV brand, and I think they did it because they didn't lose their performance cars. Jaguar didn't successfully do is they went so heavy on SUVs and kind of, with the exception of the F-Type, walked away from their performance sporty coupe history. I think that hurt them.
I think realistically you should choose a lane. It's like, I think companies often would get like distracted when they try to go both ways at the same time. It's like realistically it is possible, but it's like when you go here, there's a risk that you just get labeled as an SUV brand rather than like the strong performance brand. I feel like that risk is not worth the payoff, just because unless you like land the plane essentially perfectly, you could very easily get stuck in a lane that you weren't initially made for, which is what I'm guessing is what's happening with Jaguar right now.
Then there are the aforementioned EV efforts, the I-Pace, the canceled electric XJ, and so on.
I think the Jaguar I-Pace is an example of what happens when you cannot commit to a long-term product plan and then follow through on that and execute and keep updating the model. There just hasn't been enough improvement in the I-Pace.
So, the plan now, stop chasing...
I'm surprised that they only put like 10 seconds of the controversy in this video. Like, I feel like they had to mention it, but they didn't really want to dwell on it.
Volume and go up market.
What we need to do now, as I say, is to go back to, well, actually, when we were successful, when we made cars that were genuinely elite, that looked like nothing else on the road.
When Jaguar does return, it will be as a smaller maker of EVs that are expected to start somewhere around $125,000, a price band just above where Range Rover models currently start. It expects to invest about $19 billion.
Here's the thing for me, is I'm looking at his $125,000 cars. I'm like, who's buying these? Like, who actually has $125,000 and is like, I'm gonna buy a car with this? And this is why I partially don't understand why, like being a car person, because my car and your car do about the same thing, pretty much.
In the transition through 2028. The first of 3 new fully electric vehicles, set to launch in 2026, will be a Grand Tourer, basically a larger car that combines speed and comfort. Jaguar says it will be able to travel about 430 miles on a single charge.
That's good, actually. My car only gets like 2 something, and I feel it. Bro, I feel it.
To expect it will have about 600 horsepower and all-wheel drive.
I know what that means.
A concept car the GT will be based on was revealed at Miami Art Week on December 2nd.
We have a track.
Bro, this is if you guys ever saw the movie Blade Runner 2077, dude, this is what is like the old predecessor in that movie, because I actually think it looks dope.
I think of bringing concept cars that are very close to the production reality, and I'm really confident that in the back end of 25, when we unveil the 4-door GT to everybody, they're not going to be disappointed.
In late November, Jaguar revealed its new brands, emblems, and branding strategy. The campaign did receive some backlash.
I'm not sure I know what's going on in this. The stock went down.
I think this is a result of when I was talking about how after you like change hands with part of like major management, I don't think the original owner, if they were like running the company, I don't think they'd run this ad, because especially after what happened with Budweiser, I don't think like smart business owners want to get anything involved in politics. And when you have something like this that's like part of your brand now that people think about it, I think it just demolishes your image, you know, because it's important to stay in the lane that you think you're really good at. And if this is a